All right, guys, we are getting more details of exactly why Jeff Zucker was removed from CNN as their head. This comes from Rolling Stone. And basically the details that we learn here of what was going on behind the scenes with Zucker and his mistress Gollust vis-a-vis the governor of New York at the time, Andrew Cuomo, are exactly what you probably expected. We just have some more specifics that we can layer. Yeah, we've got some text messages and some specifics here that we can bring you. So let's go ahead and throw this tear sheet up on the screen from Rolling Stone. The headline here is Cuomo W, Trump L, how CNN's Jeff Zucker and his cronies manipulated the news. Text, email exchanges, and 36 sources tell the true story behind the downfall of TV's ultimate operator. And before I give you some of the details reported out here, just recall that when he was pushed out as head of CNN, there were Jake Tapper held a mourning at his, like, a wake at his house. They were crying. They were in emotional distress. All these audio was being leaked. They were upset not because of his journalistic malpractice, but because their protector had been removed. So with that being said, let's dive into some of the details here. So one of the exchanges they got their hands on was on a day when, in the morning, Cuomo had done one of his press conferences, and Trump has just floated the idea of potentially shutting down travel from the New York, New Jersey area. And so he gets asked about it, and at the presser he gives this kind of like, well, we'll see what happens, rather milquetoast response. By that evening on CNN, he's coming out firing. He gets asked this question that they describe as seemingly tailor-made for him. What would this mean for the stock market? Would it have to shut down? And he says, oh, it would drop like a stone. That would drop this economy in a way that wouldn't recover for months, if not years. So much more forceful response on CNN primetime that evening. What they uncover is that in the meantime, Cuomo had texted to Allison Gollust and said, ask Jeff to call me, please. Then, about 30 minutes before that actual appearance on CNN, Gollust had emailed a programming staffer copying Zucker and saying, hey, let's get the governor on as a last-minute guest to talk about Trump's proposed quarantine. Then he does the segment sort of breathing fire about Trump and the quarantine and the stock market and all of this. And when the segment ends, Gollust texts Cuomo and says, well done, Cuomo W, Trump L. This from the supposedly neutral journalists at CNN. There's more, though, in terms of Gollust's relationship with Cuomo. Remember, she had been for a short time one of his aides. They were apparently close buddies and kept in close contact. She had asked him to help her friend cut through some bureaucratic red tape to open a birthing center in Manhattan. She also asked him for something involving Billy Joel, who had once hosted a Cuomo campaign fundraiser, and she prefaced that request by saying, I never ask you for favors, but, to which Cuomo replied, yes, you do ask me for favors, and that's okay. It's mutual. One Democratic operative says it was clear she leveraged the relationship with him. There was a consistent exchange of favors between them. So there you go.
I think all of this matters, though, once again, because this is the veneer through which you are getting so much of your news and your information are the people who ran these networks and do control, empirically, domestic politics to a very large degree. So the machinations behind the scenes and the way that they posture themselves, market themselves, create themselves into the story, it matters immensely to the information environment. And I think it matters even more because elite corruption, what's allowed and is okay and overseen, and then what is reported on, supposedly scandalized and put in front of you, it's all selective. And when you look behind and you see how they're doing all of this stuff behind the scenes in such a corrupt and ridiculous manner, it just taints all coverage, all of their editorial direction. And it also shows us how what they claim to be true and to not is very much suspect in and of itself. And I think that's why, like, when we spend so much time on this story, you have to remember how important CNN is as an American institution. When you go abroad, like when I'm in India, CNN India and International is always on in a lot of people's TVs. CNN is one of the most trusted brands in news. Even today, at an all-time low, it still means and it matters something. Oh, I saw that on CNN. And to see how exactly that's all run and the background of it just pulls back the curtain as to who the exact people are who are delivering you this product. that I think matters a lot.
It just reveals, I mean, all their like high-minded rhetoric about journalism.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
that's what I mean.
That's not what they're doing there.
Yeah.
It's a business, right? And they're just running it as like however they can sort of short-term profit maximize, angle in their own little Game of Thrones internal posturing and power plays and those sorts of things. She points out in this article, the reporter that wrote this, that there was kind of actually a similar relationship between Zucker and Trump originally when Trump first starts his campaign. I mean, they have a long-time relationship. They were kind of buddies going back and forth. And so originally, Zucker is, you know, kind of propping up Trump and certainly during the campaign giving him tons and tons of exposure. And then when that flipped into this sort of like adversarial relationship, well, that was also great for CNN. No one's benefited more from the Trump years as they positioned themselves as a part of the resistance. So, you know, even if you think about before the Trump years, the type of programming decisions that they would make under Zucker, they went all in on that. Remember that like cruise ship that was stranded and the missing flights and that sort of stuff, which was more, it was like tabloidy, not to say that it wasn't important the lives that were lost, but in terms of like global geopolitical affairs, there were certainly other stories that were worthy of coverage as well. And they spent days and days and days and days going all in on these certain stories. Why? Because it's not ultimately about like bringing you the best journalistic product and helping educate you and inform you about the world. That's not the game these people are playing whatsoever. And so you see it very clearly exposed in text messages like this, that's the least of their concerns. And then it shows you also in the reaction of their talent to this all being exposed that they're not like sad that there was all this journalistic malpractice going on and outright corruption. They're sad that the guy that was their guy and who was protecting them is gone.
It's all just a fake team sport, and we should all just wake up to that reality.
Well said. All right, guys, thanks for watching. More for you later. Hey, guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.